what I found fascinating, and we'll talk about the book very soon. So what I find fascinating about the timing of the Horn Group and your journey through PR is disruption through technology. So Amazon was coming in, Google came in. We saw dot-com buzz. We saw a lot of evolution happening, a lot of way the consumer habits change, and PR to many degrees, the messaging of it very related to that. So walk us through the evolution, what that you have seen of PR as an industry.
Mhm.
That will be helpful.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, back in the early 1990s, public relations was much more of a tactical function of marketing. It was all about grinding out press releases. And in Silicon Valley, there were maybe only a handful of firms who were considered to be strategic public relations agencies. And I worked for one of them. It was called Blanc and Otis. And, I learned a lot from Maureen Blanc and Simone Otis, who were the co-founders of that firm. But that was really kind of what I thought was the ticket to not just execute and grind out press releases, but to offer thought and strategy on what messages are the right ones to lead with and what customers really want to hear, what a value proposition is. For example, a small thing, but very important. And so, I think public relations as a profession evolved from being tactical to becoming really like one of the most strategic functions within a company, advising the C-suite and operating with a seat at the board level. And it's not just about publicity anymore. It's more than just earned media, right? It's really about all forms of communication to reach any audience you need to reach, whether it's through social media or even through advertising or through video. And yes, even still through a press release, that's all public relations. And, I would say the best public relations today, the most strategic public relations is all about risk assessment, where you're advising, whether it's your own CEO or your client, what are the threats and opportunities you have to consider as you move forward, and then coming up with a communication plan to support it.
Interesting. And as an entrepreneur who is basically either riding this wave or going through this wave, how should, like, what are some of the common pitfalls that you have seen that businesses fall into when it comes to their understanding of what PR firm is and what they're supposed to do?
Yeah, well, so there's a few. I mean, the worst is right when you have an executive who comes to you and says, "We have a crisis. Can you make it go away?" And that's not the job of PR. It's to deal with it, and to navigate through a crisis and come out the other side. Another pitfall is, when marketing executives say, well, we just want to be like that company over there. Can you just make us be like them? And it doesn't work that way. You cannot put lipstick on a pig, and you can't paint your Prius red and make it run like a Ferrari. Like you have to be authentic. But it just really comes down to, like, it's not about spin. It's not about being something that you're not. It just doesn't work that way.
Interesting. And I think it's interesting you're saying that. So I was talking briefly with you before this session. So whenever you read any book from a PR executive, whether it's Ryan Holiday and all that, it looks like a John Grisham novel when it comes to crisis management. To do this, to it's fascinating that how much spin and how much things are going. Or so I think it's a refreshing thought from hearing from you is okay. Just do things right. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, um, there are plenty of examples, right? But another common mistake is when you're too big for your britches and you're way out over your skis. it's not uncommon to find CEOs in Silicon Valley who have a head full of steam, and they're it's good to have a vision, but you still have to be operating from a basis of where you are today and reality. But it's also on the other side of the spectrum, more established brands can fall into the pitfalls of becoming complacent, where they're not innovating anymore. So what they're communicating isn't fresh, and they don't do the right research, right? And there's so many examples, like Harley Davidson, for example, right? Motorcycle, Rough Rider, right? They decided to get into the perfume business. Didn't work. Cosmopolitan magazine for women decided to get into the yogurt business. Like, people just wanted to buy a magazine. They didn't want yogurt. So, that's where, like, you have to get centered again. And that's where public relations and marketing really play a very strategic role.